He's a two-time Super Bowl champion. He is an amazing podcaster as well. He's a podcast entrepreneur and a business owner as well. The Green Light Podcast. The great Chris Long joins us on the Rich Eisen Show. What's going on, man?
Small business owner.
Yeah, small business owner, but like with eyes on capturing
I don't know anymore.
The podcast world.
I don't know anymore. Who wants to do that? I mean, like, success is Pat McAfee. The guy does not stop working.
You know, it's funny you say that. I was on the road this weekend, and Friday I was at Purdue. We did Ohio State Purdue Saturday on Peacock. Yeah. And we're sitting there after talking to the Purdue coaches, and Pat came. They were at Washington, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, for that one. And he's doing the show Friday afternoon, and someone in our crew, Kyle Rudolph, actually looked up, and we both just said, "Man, like, what a schedule! Like, good God! Like, it's this show and that show, and then game day. And by the way, it's great to be working and great to be making that money. No one's complaining.
No question.
Good for Pat.
I'm just a little lazy, maybe.
But then it's like, hey, do the alternate feed during the game, and then do your own show on Monday.
Yeah.
And then, look, hey, work while
hats
you
off.
got the work, man.
Hats off to my dude Pat, because that's what success looks like. Small business, though, right now. It's good to see you, Andrew.
Likewise, man. Good to see you as well. Thanks for making time, even with all your stuff you're doing here on a Monday. What'd you think of that Jets-Eagles game yesterday?
Well, I thought, the two undefeateds went down, right? Yeah. I'm not worried about either team, not any more than I was going in. I think the Eagles have been working through things offensively. Lane Johnson injury would be the biggest worry for me. Like, if you came out of this game and said, hey, you lost, but you're getting Lane back soon, great. Now, if you're not getting Lane back soon, that's a bigger problem than anything that happened on the field. And it's a bigger problem than anything in the secondary. Secondary has been an issue. I thought those Jets guys, though, stepped up in the back end really well. And I think the biggest thing for me was waking up this morning and reading and listening to people like Jalen Hurts comes up short. Jalen Hurts played bad, this, that, and the third. I'm going to be as honest as I can. I don't think Jalen Hurts played bad until that last pick. I don't know if that's a shock to anybody watching or listening. I don't know what game you were watching. The two picks that were thrown before were not on him. Dallas Goedert got the ball taken off him by Jermaine Johnson, and that's an interception that way. And Jermaine Johnson, again, making a big play, beating Lane's replacement, getting a hand on Jalen's arm, and the ball flutters up in the air. I thought without the run game going, playing a little bit left-handed, if you just don't have the drops, if you don't have the turnovers, this game's 24-6, 24-9 late, and it would have been a tougher script for the Jets to follow. Having said that, this is the NFL. You make mistakes, teams like this beat you, and I got to tip my cap to Robert Saleh and to Zach Wilson. I thought Zach Wilson played a really good game relative to my expectation, even with the secondary back there. The throw he made to Garrett Wilson backed up was like a legitimate wow throw, and he avoided the bad wow throws. I think for the Eagles, you got to get healthy and you got to put teams away. You looked at San Francisco in the same vein, not to bleed into another, undefeated loss, but they had chances to put that game away. When you're playing a team on the road that you don't think is as good as you, and you got Brandon Ayuk, and it's 3rd and 13, the ball hits him in the hands, you got to make that play. If you got McCaffrey out of the backfield and you got a chance to go up a couple scores, you got to do that. If you're the Eagles and you come out of the half and, you turn the ball over before the half, you drop a pass on the plus territory side of things, you end up 3rd and 23, you're going to lose that game. You leave these teams hanging around, you're going to lose these games. So the Eagles did not play well enough to win. I'm not more worried about them than I was, coming into Sunday. And Jalen Hurts, I thought, played fine until that last screw up, which was monumental. It reminded me of Lamar's screw up a week ago. Where you play good the whole game and then, you throw that pick in the end zone. My biggest issue is being aggressive in that situation on 3rd and 8,
There's a lot to unpack there with Philly. I agree with you on Jalen Hurts. I also think there's kind of like, and you played there, you know how this happens, and I told you so Because even through the undefeated 5-0 here, there was a lot of noise from the Philadelphia fans. Well, they're not as good as they were last year.
They're not.
And Brian Johnson's not the same play caller as Shane Steichen. And
He's
why
not.
are we running the ball? And Jalen's not the same. And like, guys, you're 5-0. Like, it's a week-to-week league. Anybody can beat anybody and be 5-0 and be happy about it. Now they get a chance to reset, and I'm with you. The Lane Johnson thing is absolutely huge. I was at the Browns game, Browns-Niners. I did Browns radio yesterday. Without Debo, don't know how long or what his deal is. Without McCaffrey, same thing. It was an oblique. I don't know if they saw it on the Fox broadcast, but at one point, he had the massage gun working on that side there, and then he came back in, and then he tapped back out again. All the Brock Purdy doubters, and yesterday he faced an amazing defense. They've given up 1,000 yards in 5 games, which is absurd.
Insane.
Insane. A great defense had a day. But now those who want to doubt Brock Purdy, I'm not one of them, will be able to see whether or not they have a leg to stand on. I don't think they will. I think Purdy will be just fine. But you take away some of these weapons, Chris. They were the only team in the NFL not to have not a Pro Bowler, but an All-Pro at wide receiver, tight end, and at running back. Now they only have one right now at tight end.
Yeah. So I think, like any quarterback, you're the beneficiary of the context around you, or you're going to struggle because things are not set up well around you. Like, there's very few quarterbacks in the league. I think there's just one that can win in any weather. And I mean that, with Rashee Rice out there, with who knows, like Patrick Mahomes can get it done. But most guys need some sort of structure. And this kid's used to having a lot of structure. I also think he's like, and, I hate doing this because people will argue with you no matter. I've tried to compliment Brock Purdy and people have gotten mad at me when I say he's a fringe top 10 guy. Like I'm saying like, hey, you could be 8, you could be 12. I don't do the rankings things, but he's not in that like top 4 to 5 for me. But he's somewhere in that second tier of guys, and they're not growing him on trees. So this is not a slight. I think he's a really good player, and the thing I like about him is he makes plays off schedule. He can exist in the confines of the offense and be a point guard, but he can go score too. A point guard who can distribute the ball and create. And I thought yesterday was his worst game as a pro. Okay, not a huge shock. But if you take advantage of those opportunities, the missed kicks, after the Fred Warner pick, you miss a kick. We talked about missing Debo, or not Debo. We talked about, bless you, my producers are having a sneezing fest back here. But I think
small business owner, man. That's what you got to go through.
Exactly. Everybody's sneezing. It's like tough. But missing Ayuk, missing McCaffrey, those are your opportunities. And then the game gets tight and the weather changes. I'm not making excuses for the kid. That's a really good defense. They manned him up. They said, hey, Jim came out of the half and said, hey, wet ball, the wind's blowing a little bit. You can see it on Wisnowski's little sleeves. Mm-hmm. It was not an ideal situation. So in the same vein, I don't want to be overreactive. Now, Brock is entitled to one of these, like every other quarterback, but he's going to have to win some of these, right? To prove that he's in that elite category. And this is what you're expected to do. You can't always be Christian's healthy. You got to learn to win without him. Because if history tells you anything, he's going to be down for a game or two. And Debo plays physical. He's not always going to be out there. You have to figure out how to win left-handed sometimes. And I thought something that really hurt them was Dre Greenlaw's absence.
Yeah.
There were multiple plays down the stretch of that game that I think Dre Greenlaw makes, like the 4th and 4, the pick in the end zone, which I think, maybe, or the free runner sack that Burks had. I mean, these are all little things that when you're not 100% healthy, the next man up has to win. And for Brock Purdy, I only saw him struggle once last year. I think it was Seattle primetime on the road, and they were the better team. They outlasted them, but I haven't seen a hiccup like that since Seattle, and he's entitled to it. I think they'll be fine, but they got to stay healthy.
Yeah, 49ers get the Vikings coming up. You played in that defense. You know this defense. The stat that blew me away, and I saw it on Friday, And I didn't know what to make of it because some of these numbers here, you're like including when Jim Schwartz was a consultant with the Titans. But
Right.
the numbers stand out. In games in which Schwartz has been a head coach or a coordinator or throwing one as a consultant, his defenses are 8-1 against Kyle Shanahan.
Wild.
You played in that defense. Why? Why do you think that's the case?
If I had to guess, I mean, you talk about West Coast system, you talk about zone scheme, you talk about like guys getting on your edges. A penetration kills zone. That would be my only uneducated guess. I mean, you talk about Jim Schwartz's defense. And I'm a pass rusher, but like to the point where I was like, Jim, I don't have to play my keys. Like I'm just like you want me to just run? That's how they do things. They want you to attack. They want you 4 yards up the field. And I think with that defensive front, it's like the perfect storm for his type of defense. They're pretty simple, you know. It's about the guys up front winning and the back end guys covering. And you know, in 2017 we had that group. This back end's better, especially outside, right? So you've got the guys that can man up like they did in the second half, and then you've got a really good defensive line again. We didn't have Myles Garrett, but we had a Fletcher Cox, and you know, you could compare depth from there. But this group is probably just as good. They're going to be a tough out, and I think it's for Cleveland. It's like it justifies everything because, you know, the Browns haven't beaten a team undefeated this far into the season. I think we looked it up since the 60s.
Yep.
Like PJ Walker did it. All those freaking taped quarterback names on the back of your jerseys with all those names. PJ Walker authored the biggest win of regular season's Browns history, if you've been alive, you know, 50 years or whatever. That's crazy. And it's all about the defense. It's just like you should come out at yesterday and say, if you're a Browns fan, we can do anything. But that was a perfect storm.
Yeah, and did it without Jack Conklin, who's obviously out for the year, without Joel Bitonio, without Nick Chubb, and without Deshaun Watson, and with P.J. Walker throwing 2 picks, and he should have thrown a third there on second down when they got to the red zone after the Jerome Ford 22-yard run. It's like, I don't know why you're throwing, but if you are at that point when you're running right and you see triple coverage, just run and slide and keep the clock going.
Slide.
And he knew that too, and he said afterwards, like immediately, like that was absolutely all on me, but it almost cost him the game.
It did. And I just want to say this. I want to shout out that right tackle, DeJuan Jones,
the kid from Ohio State.
He has been, I mean, like, you know, you don't want anybody getting hurt, but it's almost like they found their guy. He's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Chris Long, a couple more minutes here. Chris, thanks for your time, of course, of the Green Light Podcast. You also played and won a Super Bowl with the Patriots and Bill Belichick. We did the math now. He is 8 away from the all-time loss record in the regular season, which is a Jeff Fisher, Dan Reeves record. That's not in any way to take away from Bill Belichick's greatness, but having been in that building and having won,
or Jeff Fisher,
you've been in that building as well. How do you think this ends?
Man, if I knew, I'd go to Vegas, but it's hard to know. It's like kind of depends on. It's Bill and Robert, and you know, like, well, I think a lot of people. You glean things, or, you know, like I was there a year. Shoot, I'm not the insider that, you know, and Pats fans will tell you you were just there for a year. So what do you know? And it's true. I don't know much, but I think it could end with Bill coaching somewhere else at some point. Like, why not? Like, the guy loves ball. I don't see him like building wooden ships in his free time and playing with his dogs.
like going to Annapolis and becoming a shipbuilder.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be doing those model tall ships his whole life. And, you know, like, I know he likes lacrosse, but you go to a couple of these games, you're like, I want to coach
UVA,
football.
You're not a lacrosse guy now?
I played lacrosse, but I'm saying, like, there's nothing like it for him. And so, like, you tell me, you think with what they got going on, how far out are they?
They're not close. I think they're more in the conversation of
rebuild.
They're in a rebuild, but like they're 1-5. They still have the Bills twice, right? And the Dolphins and the Chargers. the crazy thing is, Chris, right before you came on, like they get the Jets week 18. Obviously, he was Jets coach for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that could be like with a top 5, if not the number 1 pick, potentially. I don't think it's number 1, but in the conversation, or the all-time loss record in the conversation, like it all comes full circle potentially week 18 to the Jets.
It's kind of poetic though.
Yeah.
I mean, like think about it. You know, Bill, you think of this guy who wants to do anything to win. Like that's been well documented. Would he lose to win? I think he might already be losing to win. Like, and sometimes you don't have to coach to lose. Like, it's just a bad setup. And some of the personnel decisions, like you go to Vegas last year, not that the Chandler Jones thing is recent and it's kind of just a coincidence, but he is the guy that beats you. And then this year you go, Josh McDaniels beats you again. And Jacoby Myers is catching touchdowns in the end zone. Like, the reminders are everywhere for New England. And I think for fans, they're like, what the hell happened? It's crazy. But he's also smart and willing and savvy enough to, if they said, hey, we got to punt on this season and make it look like we're trying our very best to win these games, which we are, they could be in a quick rebuild situation. Now, the question for Robert is, is Gerard Mayo or somebody a better option? You know?
Remind me, was Gerard an assistant when you were there, or was he playing? No, he wasn't there.
No, Gerard and I are in the same draft class. It's my dude, but he's actually from Virginia as well. But like they've kept him around up there and not let him get out of the building.
Right.
I think he'd be a great head coach.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a great head coach.
I think he's a guy. The question is, how do you do it? And I, do you mentioned the personnel? Is there a scenario, and how would Bill react if Kraft came to him and said, "Look, you can coach, but we have to do something different with personnel," but then grow as his guy? Like, I don't know how.
Personnel's got to be better. Like that, like if, and I don't know that Matt is making a lot of decisions. You're talking about Matt Groh?
Yeah. I mean, it's Bill.
Yeah, it's Bill. So like at some point, I think maybe the first thing that happens is like, hey, we got to make some personnel decisions in a different way. And this is all speculation. This is like me talking like Joe fan. I don't have any insight other than just having played there. But you can't imagine, if this is an honest try and they're trying to win right now, that this is like, oh, we're close. And that's how they feel. I don't think so.
All right, we've taken way too much of your time. I mentioned Greenlight. Plug rather the whole podcast empire, because you just launched something new, right?
Yeah, we got a couple. We got a couple little shows that we're launching outside my show, but really, all you got to focus on is Greenlight Pod. Type it into Apple Podcasts, type it into Spotify. We're on YouTube. We do a live show every Monday at 10 a.m. We got Diana Rossini joining us a lot of the weeks, talking about NFL Insider type stuff. My brother co-hosting with me at times. I've got a few guys that I play with that are working here. You might enjoy it. Look us up. Always enjoy it. Always. From his compound in Charlottesville. Chris Long, great to have you on, man. Continued success. Talk to you soon. Hey, and one thing, Rich Eisen's might be the best guy in the booth that doesn't do it. He's great. Oh my gosh. Totally. I'm not sucking up because he brings me on the show. Rich crushed it from London, as always. Clip this. Plays for Rich tomorrow. Yeah, he's back tomorrow. Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. So are you. Thanks, Take Chris. Care. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. See you, Chris Long, everybody.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.